let's start off with the kickoff, because I know this is your baby. Can you give us a little history just on the genesis of the kickoff and then what happened at the league meetings?
Yeah, so kickoff was one of the most dangerous plays. Also, thanks for having me on, boys. You know, I'm a huge beardo. That's the nickname I gave the fans of the Fitz and Whit podcast. But,
wow.
Yeah, look at the best beards in football. So what started as a kickoff was the most dangerous play. And you saw over the past 20 years, there's been a lot of rule changes to make it less injury focused. And that was largely to let's influence touchbacks, whether it's moving the kicker up, moving the touchback incentive up to make it so that kickers can kick touchbacks so we don't have as many injuries. I spent time at the XFL working on a rule change that could still have returns, but also limit the amount of high-speed collisions or high-velocity impact plays is what we called them, to reduce concussions. And it worked. We had a 92% return rate. The NFL liked it. Around 4 years later, they implemented something similar, now known as the dynamic kickoff. Much better naming than I called it the low-impact kickoff. And people are like, well, what is this?
You were specific.
I was trying to be very focused on it. Dynamic is always funny because nobody's moving. So why is it dynamic? But the kickoff starts the players where the ball is caught. That is where the players normally lined up. So if you watched a bunch of kickoffs and paused it on where it was caught, coverage team would be the 35, return team would be at the 30, and that's where those guys would end up meeting. So why not just start the play there? NFL's done a bunch of things to kind of adapt the rule to fit what they want to do in the NFL style. Last year, they were going to have the touchback at the 35. Day before the owners' meetings, the coaches moved it to the 30. Now, after we saw results that it was a great play, people had fun utilizing strategy, the touchback is now going to the 35, which will hopefully influence more returns.
How cool is that the NFL now has something and they've implemented something that you came up with?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. My wife loves to watch it, and like we root for every team now. I said the Commanders, our number one team, is Zach Ertz, but other than that, like we're just rooting for dynamic touchdowns. So it's pretty fun to be able to see that and be able to, like, when we had Laviska Shenault, which is a kid from Dallas area where I'm from, he returned a touchdown on Thursday Night Football. That was like a crazy moment for me to do like a full circle. So it's awesome to see what they're doing, and they're continually improve upon it.
Sam, let me say this. Like, people are going to see, all right, the kickoff's getting moved from the 30 to the 35, and they're going to go, well, what's the difference? But correct me if I'm wrong here. There is a huge jump in the percentage of or I should say the percentage chances of an offense scoring points when you go from really where it used to be a touchback's 25, you go to the 30. I think the significance wasn't as much, but if you went to the 35, there's a massive jump there and the opportunity for the other team, if they start at the 35, to go score points. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a huge deal. I mean, 2 first downs, you're in plus 45 territory. That is where the first time you're more likely to score than not. And so a lot of football-minded people, you're basing your process on how close we get to that spot. Now, 1 first down at the 35, now you're at your own 45. The world's your oyster. Some teams won't even punt from there from now on because you're getting an opportunity to then go to that plus 45. So there is a huge deal on what that first down, because I think it's the average drives or plays per drive is around 4. And so you have this opportunity where if you can get that first down, it's a completely different mindset of going from the 30 to the 40. I think another big factor is the out of bounds kick or the kicks that don't make it to the landing zone. That penalty is still only the minus 40. And so you're going to see a lot of more unique kicking styles where you're trying to have the ball hit the ground first, because in the dynamic kickoff version in the NFL, that's when the plays start. I had a 3-second pause because they didn't want to influence that. But from what I've heard from the coaches, they want more creativity in kicking styles. And so now there's going to be more incentive to see those line drive kicks or unique style kicks, which will create a lot of chaos in the back end.
What about the onside kick deal? Do you think it mattered? I think they at least put it up to vote. Like, should we be able to do it and announce it earlier? But that got shot down. But you think that matters at all to take that out of the game for the first 3 quarters?
Personally, I do. I think it's something they should revisit at some point. I had an onside kick at any time. Also, for extremely windy games, if you can't make it to the landing zone, I would just tell my coaches, if you don't think you can make it, just onside kick it, But another part of it is we want to be able to see these comebacks, and there shouldn't be a restriction. If you're down 3 scores, mercy rule in Madden, if you're down, the Chiefs should have been able to do an onside kick, right? But because the way that they scored timing-wise, it was before the quarter break, that makes it a little bit what are we doing here? But the NFL, they have their ways. They have a amazing data team that's analyzing all these things. It probably affects one game a year of around 300 games. So like maybe not the most important rule to change.
Yeah, and the second one coming in, Sam, is really about something that was already changed in the playoffs, but obviously allowing both teams to possess the ball in overtime, even if the first team scores a touchdown. Now, there was also a vote about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Tell us how that really affects things in the regular season.
Yeah, it's a really weird rule because overtime, we don't see too much of it. And so there's a ton of overtime research that you can try and do, different styles of overtime. In the regular season, under the old rule, it was about a 50-50 win rate plus the ties. So there wasn't actually in regular season a need to change it. But we saw in the playoffs, before they changed it to after what happened to the Bills-Chiefs game, one of the best games we ever saw, we saw that in the playoffs, when the teams were much better on offense, they won 9 of 10 opportunities in that overtime style. So, hey, let's bring that to the regular season. Well, you didn't really need to because it's still 50-50 win rate when you're looking at every possible team. These are even match teams. What was funny is last year, huge swing the other way. So the teams that went first, they overwhelmingly won. And so now it's a recency bias of over time when we have this changed. But football is such a hard sport to do rule changes for because you can't really include a ton of data from previous years because the rules change every year. And new offensive styles come in, right? We have more teams passing the red zone. There's old clips of Andy Reid where he was the only coach that actually passed more often than ran in the red zone, and people called him crazy. So it's really hard to use so much data to evaluate trends in football because the rules change so much. But I think it's great. When you're looking at overtime rule changes, when I was at the XFL, our fans told us, don't make it more dangerous of a game. And so no matter what rule I did, it can make it as equally as dangerous, but I can't make it more dangerous. I think by going to 10 minutes, it might be better to go first because now you have the information advantage if both teams score. If it's a touchdown score each way, it still might not. There's not enough data for me to really understand what the best version is, just like playoff overtime. I didn't understand, but with that 10-minute cutoff, knowing that we're not going another quarter break after, you might be able to end with the ball if you go second. So that's more important.
I know that you're very passionate about this one now, that the Hawkeye technology, the first downs, the not elimination, but the chain gang is not as important as they used to be. It seems like this should have happened earlier. What took so long to implement this, and why is it not as easy as people think?
Yeah, so what the Hawkeye technology will do will simulate the action of the chain crew running onto the field for a measurement, which we have very few measurements now in football. You'll look with a very keen eye. If a team gets on 1st and 10 on their own 30, well, I guess let's do this 35 now, and they get 11.5 yards, you're going to start at the 37. You're not going to, or the 47. You're not going to start anymore on like that half-yard line area. So you see fewer measurements because you always know I'm measuring from a yard line. So it's just something that officials do. You'll see it throughout the game. See it less in the playoffs. So we don't see that many measurements, but on the top of it, we're only replacing that endpoint where you take the chains out and measure. So the ball will be placed in the field. You'll have it shot from 6 to 8 cameras in stadium, and you'll triangulate where the ball is. Everyone will clear out so we can see the ball clearly, no occlusions, and we'll tell you whether you have the first down or not. It's a little bit different because you're still not getting, does the player have possession changed by technology? Is the player down changed by technology? Is the player down by contact changed by technology? And something that we had in our game was, when was the whistle? If you remember in the Black Friday football game, all that commotion happening was, even though we have video of the guy making the motion before the ball was snapped, we actually don't have the whistle associated with that same data stream. So when you're looking at, hey, can we replace everything with it? Yes, there's still a chip in the ball. That's not being used for this measurement. All these different pieces is you have to change a lot of the mechanics and the technology on the field of the officials for us to make a truly automated process. But, there'll still likely be a cool graphic animation like they do in tennis for whether they got the first down, because we're going to lose that anticipation of us measuring with chains.
My question to you is, if we can see on video when a player's knee goes down, can we pause the video and get a sense with the chip in the ball or whatever with where exactly the ball is at that moment that the knee goes down?
Yeah, so the way I was building it at the XFL was to use a universal time code. which or I'm going to use UTC for short, or also be taking
UTC.
a while.
It's UTC. You know,
I don't know what any of that means. I went to LSU. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So we have a time stream, and we want to sync up all the cameras, the data feed, and everything. Now, these are minute problems, and I hope your beardos love listening to this, but like the data stream from the football comes at 10 frames per second versus the video stream comes at 24 or 30 frames per second. So it's not going to be exact on the video every time. We might be an in-between step. Some of the crazy defensive vulnerability prototypes, those are some of the things I sent you, were doing a little bit of that crazy stuff. And then we have to sync that up. And then we have to know the chip in the ball right now is really good because it's low battery usage, but it doesn't have a gyroscope in it. So we know the football.
LBU, right?
No,
LBU, low battery usage.
Yeah,
LBU.
No gyroscopes.
I'm going to use a prop.
I think we lost him.
UTC, LBU.
The front of the ball is here right now.
Okay.
Yep.
Now you'd shift it. The front of the ball moved. Right? So you need to know orientation of the ball. And so, yes, you'd have to put it from the video. You couldn't do it without a gyroscope scope in the football to be able to know the yaw of the football, which is, you have the X, Y, and yaw, or no, but whatever, X, Y, Z data. So you need that shift upwards. It's this one.
So what we're saying is it's not as easy as people are making it sound, essentially.
UTIs, gyroscopes, all that good stuff.
UTIs. UTIs.
Isn't that what we said? Is that not what we were talking about?